Steve Harvey had hosted Family Feud for over 15 years, and throughout that remarkable tenure, he had witnessed thousands of families compete on his stage. He had seen families demonstrate love, loyalty, and the unbreakable bonds that held them together through life's challenges. He had also occasionally witnessed moments that revealed the darker aspects of family relationships, moments when trust was broken and loyalty was betrayed. But nothing in his extensive experience could have prepared him for what would unfold on a Tuesday afternoon in July 2025, when a question designed to be lighthearted and entertaining would instead expose a betrayal so profound and devastating that it would force Steve to stop the entire production and help a woman navigate the destruction of two of the most important relationships in her life. This is a story about the unique pain of betrayal by those closest to us, about how truth emerges in unexpected moments, and about why family bonds, once broken by deception, can never be fully restored to what they once were. If you believe that family loyalty matters and that some betrayals cut deeper than any other, make sure to like and subscribe to this channel, because what happened next will demonstrate that the worst wounds often come from those we trust most completely. The Martinez family from Phoenix, Arizona stood on one side of the Family Feud stage, representing what appeared to be a close and loving family unit ready to compete and celebrate their bonds. The family was led by 38-year-old Christina Martinez, a dedicated elementary school teacher who had spent 15 years shaping young minds and creating safe learning environments for vulnerable children. Standing beside her was her husband of 12 years, Daniel Martinez, a 40-year-old firefighter who had built his career on courage, service, and saving lives in dangerous situations. Their two children, 10-year-old Sophia and 8-year-old Miguel, completed what seemed to be a typical nuclear family competing on the show. What made this family's team composition significant was the fifth member, Christina's younger sister, 34-year-old Alina Rodriguez. The two sisters had always been close, separated by only 4 years in age and bound together by shared childhood experiences and mutual support through various life challenges. Christina had been the protective older sister, helping Alina navigate difficult teenage years, supporting her through college, and celebrating her successes. Alina had been Christina's maid of honor at her wedding to Daniel, had been present in the delivery room when both of Christina's children were born, and had become an integral part of the Martinez family, frequently babysitting the children and joining the family for holidays and celebrations. The relationship between the two sisters was characterized by deep trust and genuine affection. Christina often told friends that Alina was not just her sister but her best friend, the person she trusted most in the world after her husband. Alina reciprocated these expressions of closeness, frequently posting on social media about how blessed she was to have such a wonderful sister and brother-in-law, and how much she loved being an aunt to Sophia and Miguel. The family had decided to compete on Family Feud together specifically because Christina wanted to celebrate the close bond between the sisters and to create a special memory that would honor their relationship. What Christina did not know, what she had not suspected despite years of close contact and intimate knowledge of each other's lives, was that Alina had been carrying on an affair with Daniel for nearly 3 years. The betrayal was comprehensive and systematic, involving not just physical infidelity but emotional intimacy that had developed through countless stolen moments and elaborate deceptions. Daniel and Alina had been meeting secretly while Christina was at work, communicating through deleted messages and hidden phone calls, and maintaining the charade of innocent sibling affection even as they violated the most fundamental bonds of family trust and marital fidelity. The deception had required constant vigilance and coordinated lying. When Daniel told Christina he was working extra shifts at the fire station, he was often with Alina. When Alina claimed to be busy with work projects or social commitments that prevented her from joining family gatherings, she was frequently with Daniel. They had created an entire shadow relationship that existed alongside their public roles as brother-in-law and sister-in-law, as husband and sister. The psychological compartmentalization required for such sustained deception suggested either remarkable emotional detachment or profound selfishness that allowed both of them to prioritize their desires over the pain they knew their actions would cause if discovered. On the opposite side of the Family Feud stage stood the Peterson family from Oregon, a warm and enthusiastic group that had no idea they were about to witness something that would transcend typical game show drama and become one of the most emotionally devastating moments ever captured on television. Steve Harvey walked onto the stage with his characteristic warmth and energy, ready to facilitate what he expected to be another entertaining episode celebrating family bonds and friendly competition. He had reviewed the Martinez family's introduction materials and had been particularly touched by Christina's description of her close relationship with her sister Alina. He looked forward to highlighting the special bond between sisters and to creating a fun experience for a family that clearly valued their relationships with each other. The game began with both families demonstrating competitive spirit and quick thinking. The Martinez family took the first round, with Christina and Alina working together seamlessly to provide winning answers. The visible affection and coordination between the sisters delighted the audience and seemed to validate everything Christina had said about their close bond. Daniel participated enthusiastically, and the children were excited and supportive. The first 3 rounds proceeded normally, with both families enjoying the experience and the audience responding positively to the Martinez family's obvious closeness. The moment that would destroy everything came during the 4th round, when Steve asked a question that was designed to elicit humorous and relatable responses about minor relationship challenges. The question was this: name something a person might feel guilty about doing behind their partner's back. It was the type of question that typically generated answers about eating junk food, making purchases, watching television shows without their partner, or other minor secrets that couples often keep from each other without causing serious harm. Christina buzzed in first and gave an answer that earned points and laughter from the audience. Play continued around the family, with each member providing answers that fit the light-hearted spirit of the question. When it came to Alina's turn, something happened that would be analyzed and discussed for months afterward, as people tried to understand how such a devastating revelation could occur in such a public setting. Alina, standing at the podium under the pressure of the game clock and the attention of cameras and audience, experienced what psychologists would later describe as a moment of extreme cognitive dissonance and guilt-induced breakdown. The question about doing things behind a partner's back hit too close to the reality she had been living for 3 years. The weight of the deception, combined with the stress of maintaining the lie while standing on stage with the sister she was betraying, created a psychological breaking point. Instead of providing a safe, generic answer, Alina said, with her voice breaking and tears beginning to stream down her face, "Sleeping with your sister's husband." The studio fell into a shocked, suffocating silence. Steve Harvey froze completely, his expression showing that he was processing what he had just heard and hoping desperately that he had misunderstood. Christina stood perfectly still, her mind refusing to accept what her ears had clearly heard. The audience sat in stunned uncertainty, unsure whether this was some kind of joke or whether they had just witnessed an actual confession of infidelity. Daniel's face went through a rapid progression of expressions from confusion to panic to resignation. His reaction confirmed what everyone was beginning to suspect, but hoping was not true. He had not expected Alina to confess, had not prepared for this possibility, and his visible shock and fear revealed the truth as clearly as any words could have. Christina turned slowly to look at her sister, her face showing a progression of emotions that captured the full devastation of betrayal by the 2 people she trusted most. First came confusion as she tried to make sense of what Alina had just said. Then came a desperate hope that this was somehow a misunderstanding or a poorly executed joke. Finally came recognition and acceptance as she looked at Alina's tear-stained face and Daniel's guilty expression, and understood that her sister had just confessed to an affair with her husband on national television. The sound that came from Christina was primal and heartbreaking, a combination of scream and sob that made several audience members begin crying immediately. She staggered backward as if physically struck, and Steve Harvey moved quickly to support her, grabbing her arm to prevent her from falling. Her children, confused and frightened by their mother's distress, began crying as well, clinging to her and asking what was wrong. Steve Harvey made an immediate decision that demonstrated both his humanity and his understanding that what was unfolding transcended entertainment and required compassion rather than spectacle. He made a cutting motion to the cameras and spoke firmly to the production team. "Stop everything. Turn off the cameras now. Clear the audience. This family needs privacy immediately. This is not entertainment. This is a family in crisis. Everyone out except essential personnel. Move now." The production team responded quickly to Steve's authority and to the obvious gravity of the situation. The official cameras were cut, the studio audience was asked to leave quietly and quickly, and the stage was cleared of everyone except the Martinez family, Steve Harvey, and a few essential crew members. Backup systems continued recording for legal purposes, but the spectacle element was removed as much as possible. Christina collapsed to her knees on the stage floor, her body shaking with the force of her grief and shock. Her children were beside her, trying to comfort their mother while processing their own fear and confusion about what was happening to their family. Steve knelt beside Christina, speaking to her quietly and with genuine compassion, trying to provide some stability in a moment of complete chaos. Alina stood frozen at the podium, tears streaming down her face, her expression showing a mixture of guilt, relief, and horror at what she had just done. The confession had apparently been unintentional, a psychological breakdown under stress rather than a planned revelation, but the result was the same regardless of intent. The secret that she and Daniel had kept for 3 years had been exposed in the most public and devastating way possible. Daniel attempted to approach Christina, to explain or apologize or somehow mitigate the damage, but Steve Harvey stepped between them with an expression that made clear such an approach would not be allowed. Steve's voice when he spoke to Daniel was quiet but carried an edge of controlled fury. "Sir, you need to stay exactly where you are. Your wife is destroyed. Your children are traumatized. You do not get to approach her right now. You have done enough damage." Steve turned his attention back to Christina and her children, recognizing that they were the primary victims in this situation and that they needed immediate support and protection. He spoke to one of the producers, requesting that mental health professionals be contacted immediately and that arrangements be made to transport Christina and her children to a private location away from cameras and potential media attention. During the extended break while help was being arranged, the full scope of the betrayal began to emerge through fragmented conversations and painful admissions. Alina, perhaps seeking some form of absolution or perhaps simply unable to maintain the lies any longer, confessed that the affair had been ongoing for nearly 3 years. She described how it had started gradually, with emotional intimacy that developed during the time she spent with Daniel while babysitting the children or helping with household projects while Christina was at work. She explained how the emotional connection had evolved into physical infidelity, and how both she and Daniel had convinced themselves that what they were doing was somehow different from typical affairs because of the deep connection they shared. Each revelation added another layer of betrayal and pain. Christina learned that family gatherings she had hosted, holidays she had celebrated, moments she had treasured as examples of family closeness, had all been occurring while her husband and sister were conducting an affair behind her back. She learned that Alina had been in her home, caring for her children, accepting her trust and affection, all while systematically betraying her in the most profound way possible. She learned that Daniel had been lying to her every single day for 3 years, that their marriage had been built on deception, and that the family unit she thought she had been nurturing and protecting was actually fractured by betrayal she had not suspected. The impact on Sofia and Miguel, the 10-year-old and 8-year-old children who had been excited about competing on Family Feud with their family, was particularly heartbreaking. They did not fully understand the adult complexities of infidelity and betrayal, but they understood that their mother was devastated, that their father had done something wrong, and that their beloved Aunt Alina, who had always been a source of fun and affection, had somehow hurt their mother terribly. The security and stability they had taken for granted in their family structure was shattered, and they would require extensive support to process the trauma and to rebuild their sense of safety. Steve Harvey spent considerable time with the family, particularly with Christina and her children, before they left the studio. He provided contact information for therapists who specialized in trauma and betrayal, for legal resources that could help Christina navigate what would certainly be a complex divorce, and for support groups for people dealing with infidelity by family members. He also arranged for the family to be transported to their hotel through a private exit to avoid any media attention or public exposure during their most vulnerable moment. Before Christina left, she had a final confrontation with Alina and Daniel that was brief, but captured the full weight of what had been destroyed. Christina looked at her sister, the person she had trusted more than anyone except her husband, and her words carried the finality of a relationship that could never be recovered. "You were my sister, you were my best friend. I trusted you with my children, with my home, with my life, and you used that trust to destroy me. I will never forgive you. I never want to see you again. You are dead to me." She turned to Daniel with equal devastation but different words, acknowledging the particular betrayal of the person who had promised before God and witnesses to forsake all others and to honor their marriage. "You took vows. You promised to be faithful, to honor our marriage, to protect our family. And you chose to betray all of that with my sister. You destroyed our family. You traumatized our children. I hope it was worth it because you have lost everything." The decision about whether to air any portion of this incident became a subject of intense ethical debate among the producers, network executives, and Steve Harvey himself. Unlike situations involving external conflicts or social issues, this was an intensely private family tragedy involving betrayal, infidelity, and the destruction of sibling bonds. The argument against airing any of the footage was strong, rooted in respect for privacy, and in the recognition that the children involved deserved protection from having their family's most painful moment broadcast nationally. The decision was made not to air the episode, or to publicly discuss the specific details of what had occurred beyond a general statement that a family had experienced a personal crisis during taping that required the production to be stopped. However, information about what had happened inevitably leaked through various sources, including audience members who had been present before being asked to leave, crew members who shared the story, and eventually through social media posts and news reports. The details that emerged painted a picture of betrayal that was particularly painful because it involved not just a spouse's infidelity, but a sister's systematic violation of family bonds and trust. The affair between Daniel and Alina represented a double betrayal that destroyed Christina's two most important relationships simultaneously. The public nature of the revelation, with Alina's confession occurring on live television in front of cameras and audience, added an additional layer of humiliation and trauma to an already devastating situation. Christina filed for divorce from Daniel within days of the Family Feud revelation. The divorce proceedings were complex and emotionally charged, involving not just the typical issues of asset division and child custody, but also the particular pain of betrayal by a spouse who had violated the marriage with a family member. Christina was granted primary custody of Sofia and Miguel, received a favorable division of marital assets, and was awarded substantial child support and alimony. The relationship between Christina and Alina was destroyed beyond any possibility of repair. Christina made clear through her attorney and through statements to extended family members that she wanted no contact with Alina, that Alina was not welcome at any family gatherings that Christina attended, and that Alina would have no access to Christina's children. The severing of the sibling relationship had ripple effects throughout the extended family, forcing other relatives to navigate the difficult dynamics of maintaining relationships with both sisters while respecting Christina's boundaries and acknowledging the magnitude of Alina's betrayal. The impact on Sofia and Miguel required extensive therapeutic intervention to address. They entered family therapy with their mother to process the trauma of witnessing their family's destruction, to understand in age-appropriate ways what had happened and why their family structure had changed, and to rebuild their sense of security and trust. Both children struggled particularly with their feelings about Alina, who had been a beloved aunt figure, but who had caused their mother such profound pain. They also navigated complex emotions about their father, trying to maintain a relationship with him while processing anger and confusion about his choices. Daniel and Alina's relationship did not survive the public exposure and the consequences of their actions. The affair, which had existed in secrecy and had been sustained partly by the forbidden nature of the relationship, could not withstand the harsh light of public scrutiny and the weight of destroyed families. They ended their relationship within months of the Family Feud incident, both carrying guilt and both facing social and professional consequences for their actions. Alina, in particular, faced significant social consequences. She lost relationships with extended family members who sided with Christina or who could not reconcile Alina's betrayal with their understanding of family loyalty. She faced judgment and ostracism in her community, with friends and acquaintances distancing themselves from someone who had violated such fundamental bonds of trust. She eventually relocated to a different city, attempting to start over away from the constant reminders of what she had destroyed and the relationships she had lost. Steve Harvey addressed the incident obliquely in later episodes and interviews, discussing the importance of loyalty in family relationships and the particular pain of betrayal by those we trust most completely. He talked about how family bonds carry special obligations and responsibilities, and how violating those bonds creates damage that extends across generations and affects entire family systems. He also discussed the courage it takes to confront painful truths and to rebuild life after devastating betrayals. Several years after the incident, Christina gave a carefully considered interview to a publication that focused on healing from betrayal. She discussed her experience not to seek revenge or to further hurt her former husband and sister, but to help other people who had experienced similar double betrayals involving both romantic partners and family members. She talked about the unique pain of losing two primary relationships simultaneously, about the particular violation of trust that occurs when a family member betrays you, and about the long process of rebuilding identity and relationships after such profound losses. In that interview, Christina spoke about the surreal experience of learning about the affair through Alina's confession on national television. She acknowledged that while the public nature of the revelation had been humiliating and traumatic, it had also prevented years of continued deception and had forced immediate action rather than allowing the affair to continue while she remained in ignorance. She expressed gratitude to Steve Harvey for his immediate response, for stopping the production and prioritizing her family's well-being over entertainment value, and for the support and resources he had provided in the immediate aftermath. Christina also discussed her healing journey and her efforts to rebuild her life and to provide stability for her children. She talked about the importance of therapy, of community support, of allowing herself to grieve not just the loss of her marriage, but the death of her relationship with her sister. She spoke about the process of learning to trust again after such comprehensive betrayal, and about the careful rebuilding of her sense of self-worth and her faith in human relationships. The story became a cultural reference point in discussions about family loyalty, about the unique pain of betrayal by siblings or family members, and about how to navigate the aftermath when someone violates multiple trust relationships simultaneously. It was discussed in therapy offices as an example of complex family betrayal and the challenges of healing when primary relationships are destroyed. It was referenced in articles about infidelity, about family dynamics, and about the long-term consequences of deception within family systems. As this devastating story reaches its conclusion, several important lessons emerge about family loyalty, trust, and the particular pain of betrayal by those closest to us. Family relationships carry special obligations and responsibilities that go beyond those of typical friendships or acquaintance relationships. Violating family trust creates damage that extends across entire family systems and affects multiple generations. The betrayal of a spouse is painful, but the simultaneous betrayal by a family member creates a unique form of trauma that attacks multiple foundations of identity and security at once. Secrets maintained through deception eventually surface, often in unexpected and painful ways, and the manner of revelation can compound the trauma. Healing from comprehensive betrayal requires time, professional support, and the difficult work of rebuilding identity and capacity for trust. Steve Harvey's response to the Martinez family crisis demonstrated that sometimes the most important thing a person in a position of authority can do is to immediately stop everything, to prioritize human compassion over entertainment value, and to ensure that people in crisis receive support and protection rather than becoming spectacle for viewers. His decision to clear the stage and to provide practical resources showed a level of humanity and moral clarity that transcended his role as a game show host. If this story moved you, if you believe that family loyalty matters and that some betrayals cut deeper than any other, make sure to like and subscribe. These are the stories that remind us that the worst wounds often come from those we trust most completely, that family bonds once broken can rarely be fully restored, and that healing from such comprehensive betrayal requires courage, support, and time to rebuild what was destroyed.